Welcome to episode 272 of Friars on the Farm. I'm Donovan, and with me is Roy.
Donovan, I am basking in the party environment that is Petco Park. It has been so much fun down there with this hot start. How are you doing over there?
I'm doing okay, but really quick before we get going, that was our new intro music is Lilac from a band called 12 Gauge Trixie. They're from San Diego. The bass player's mom works in my work. She turned me on to them. I've been listening to them from the past year or so. They're really good. Check them out on Spotify. They're out here on tour a little bit up the West Coast, and if you get a chance, check them out. Buy their music. They are up and coming, and they absolutely melt the airwaves.
And so then after you look up 12 Gauge Trixie, look us up on YouTube, Spotify, everywhere. Click the like, subscribe buttons, all that stuff, and find us on our socials. Give us some feedback. We're happy to know what you think, good or bad. We're happy to take some suggestions. And I think at the end of the show, we're going to talk about some changes we'll be making coming up.
Yeah, absolutely. And the funny thing is about changes is I'm starting to get so when you put things on Spotify, you have we were putting in licensed music, so we don't have permission to put all those licensed music, and finally they're starting to get taken away, and I get the warnings, and there's nothing I can do. So being able to use local music from bands that I really like, that we really like, that we have a connection to, I think is really important, and it also saves us from licensing fees. And if you know us, we don't make any money. It actually costs us money to put this on, but there we are.
Well, speaking about making a connection with communities,
Yeah.
we have some news on the El Paso front. The T-shirts are finally in. So head on over. Donovan's going to post the link up here. But a manager loves a 3-run home run and a strong bullpen T-shirt with Zamo's face on it. You can go get that T-shirt, and it's going to support a really good cause. The Child Crisis Center of El Paso. It's a shelter that relies solely on community donations and supports the kids that are in need of help. So, Wu-Tang is for the children, Friars on the Farm is for the children, and we're trying to do our part, to help the community out. Because, like Donovan said, this is just a hobby for us. But if we can, use what platform we do have to try to, help a community out there, this is a fantastic cause, and we're grateful for the El Paso Chihuahuas for working with us on this.
Absolutely. I will post it in the description notes at the end of this. But let's get going, dude. Let's get going about the best start ever. Like I've never, what team is this? Is this our Padres? I have no idea that this is our Padres.
We have never seen a Padres team like this. I mean, the last few years, we keep saying that. Like, this is not. And we grew up with the team that was always in the bottom, like 5 of payroll, and maybe one kind of star-ish player. I mean, and Tony Gwynn, don't get me wrong, but after Tony Gwynn was gone, we were hanging on to, okay, there's this one good guy. We got a couple of
Right.
good pitchers and a bunch of people that we really hope are going to pop. And we've never seen a start like this. So 11-0 at home, 13-3 overall. And you look at the leaderboards and like they're leading in all kinds of different categories. But what really stands out to me is the offense. The guys just everybody steps up to do
Right.
their job. Nobody's trying to do too much. Pretty clean defense, very good pitching, outstanding bullpen, and just the guys seem to have this camaraderie and this chemistry already. That usually it takes half a season for this kind of thing to show up.
Absolutely. I think winning does that. Having this good start in the beginning of the season, it's too early to say they're peaking too early. But I think getting a good start and just getting used to winning is good. So when we do run into teams and we're playing some pretty poor teams, but as soon as we start running into, the Phillies and some of the higher level teams that, we might lose a series here, or we're going to lose a series here, or we might even get swept there. But having that good foundation, a good start is going to be something I think they can build on as the dog days of summer happen farther down the line. But speaking of old teams that we used to follow, I was watching the Chihuahuas game the other night, and who's first base coach for the Las Vegas Aviators? Kevin Kuzmanov.
Kuzmanov, yes, we saw him at the prospect game in Peoria. He was one of the coaching staff for that. So we saw Kuzmanov. I saw him walk. I saw his back walking away from me, and I'm like,
Yep.
is Kuz's kid playing now?
Right.
'Cause he's pretty yoked. He could still go out there and play. I bet if he really wanted to.
Well, and with the team, it's not just the stars. It's Bogarts is really having himself a good start. Holy sheets is a the whole vibe now. It's absolutely insane how a guy that we're like, all right, he might give us some support, definitely a bench piece and a depth piece at best. He's just coming up clutch like that hit like the single yesterday. I'm like, why did that guy throw him a knee-high fastball when if he would have just thrown a wrinkle, he might have popped it up. It might have been something different, but he threw him a fastball where all he had to do was lower the barrel and he drove in 2 runs. And it's just like, God dang.
Yeah, but I want to play on that holy sheets thing a little bit though, because two other things happened to that game. There was the fly ball, a pop fly that off the bat you think it's going to be an easy out, and it lands right in that little no man's land in left field between the third base, the shortstop, the left fielder. They're all converging, and the ball lands right in the middle of them. Divine guidance. And then there was, while he was up at the plate, there was a wild pitch that went all the way to the backstop to let the runners advance. So, maybe there are some other forces at work going on here.
Some holy sheet forces.
I love it. But yeah, no, you're right. Because I mean, you've got Jose Iglesias. Now Cronenworth is on the IL. Iglesias is in there every day, and he's not hitting the ball hard, but he is finding holes. Like every time he hits, it's a squibber through the middle. It's a swing and bunt. It's something happens, and he's contributing. And I wasn't expecting that when the season started. Jason Hayward, he's doing enough to earn his job, And so now that he's forced in there every single day, he's getting it done. In fact, today he's out there in center field because, okay, so next note I have on here is about injuries. I already mentioned Cronenworth's on the injured list. Merrill's on the injured list with his hamstring. And it sounds like it's a significant enough injury that today he's doing some bunting and some light baseball activities, but he's still not jogging. He's bunting, so he's not taking full swing. So they're definitely taking the long, careful road on that hamstring. And then Lockridge was going to be the starting center fielder, and then he got hurt. He pulled up with a tender hamstring. So now Oscar Gonzalez has been called up. Connor Joe came up yesterday, and then now hopefully we've got some arms making their way back. So I've seen Brian Hoeing has been throwing, and now this is the second bullpen today throwing breaking balls. Actually, I think today was the first day with breaking balls. Sean Reynolds has been doing a lot of work back in Peoria, and I have a feeling he's going to be ready to come back into full game action. That'll probably be in El Paso before it comes up to San Diego. But that's another arm. And then Yu Darvish, he's been out there playing catch with fairly full kind of effort and velocity. So he's working his way back toward bullpens because the bullpen's been outstanding. They've been incredible. But there's going to come a time where those guys need a breather. So having those guys back and getting Darvish back into the rotation would be outstanding. So they're making their way through these injuries while still getting the job done. I think that speaks to the team approach and credit to the coaching staff for that.
And that's one thing that Schultz has always practiced or always preached since he's got here. It takes more than 26 guys to get it to the season. And, we made it through spring training with very little injuries. Darvish went down, but we're okay. One guy, what are we going to do there? But just having all those guys, like who's Oscar Gonzalez? Oh, they signed Connor Joe. All these veterans that people were complaining about and weren't giving guys like Tirso Ornelas a chance, or even Oscar Gonzalez that didn't make the opening day roster. It takes more than 26, and it's going to take more than these guys to get it through the whole season. And let it be now that this happens, that these guys come up, get their feet wet back in the major leagues. I mean, Oscar Gonzalez hasn't hit a home run yet, but he's knocked in a couple RBIs, and he's had some pretty good games. Hayward is defensive. He's our defensive stalwart. Like he was brought in for defense. Anything offensively, and in that lineup, he can contribute, I think is a plus, is a bonus with that guy. And someone like Connor Joe, who can hit, what is it, left-handed pitching. And right now you got Camposano down in AAA just tearing it up. Now that, let that, and so that allows him to have more time to continue to just have consistency in AAA and bring up these guys that everyone thought was like, oof, oh my God, Preller's really not really biting the dog here. When now look what he looks like. He looks like he is, as we always, in Preller, we should always trust, even when it doesn't look like we should trust them. And these guys may fail. Iglesias may, if he plays more, maybe he will not come up in clutch situations. Or I almost said Peralta, but who's the other veteran we picked up?
Putting me on the spot here.
God,
Gurriel.
Gurriel, La Pena, at 40 years old, mm-hmm. It takes the pressure off those guys. And yeah, they're not going to be burning the barn down, but they're going to contribute enough. And that's what it is. You win. Schultz always said it. You always win on the edges. In the margins that was. Yes, I remembered. Yeah.
Yeah, so I want to point out a couple more things on the team aspect. So Michael King had that complete game shutout, outstanding, incredible game. After the game, they're going to call him back up because they want him to talk to Bob Scanlon and whoever else is available. But Michael King, before he came up, he went down and he got Elias Diaz, his catcher, and he said, "You're coming up with me." And Diaz was right there with him answering questions, because this wasn't just my job. This was also the guy that was putting the calls down and doing all the receiving and blocking back there. This is on him too. So great team attitude. And then the day before, they had the Silver Slugger presentation.
Yep.
And AJ Cassavell pointed out that it wasn't just the two players up there. They insisted that the hitting, not just the hitting coach, the entire hitting staff, all of the coaches that are part of that, which I think there were 6 guys up there, all of them were up there. And 2 of those coaches were the ones that presented the actual awards to Marilyn Machado. So they recognize that it's not just an individual's accomplishment, it's a team effort. And even then, it's not just the people that you think of at the very front, it's all the people supporting them. And I love that. I appreciate that. So last year when they did the postseason, and they called out every single trainer, and the fans were cheering out every single one of them.
Yeah.
I mean, that's got to feel good from the top to the bottom of the organization. And that only helps everybody succeed.
So that it takes more than 26 men is not just lip service. They're actually, they're actually putting that to practice, and it just builds a fucking winning organization. Wow. I just threw an F-bomb, but yeah, it's amazing. And it's funny because you see King go to Craig Huner, like, can I bring him with me? And like, you see him, yeah. And then like he grabs him and he's like, okay, let's go. It's just, that's a team effort.
It is. It really is. All right, so that's enough big league stuff. We got a whole lot of minor league things here. We got a couple of points in our minor league minute, and then we've got our breakdown, the affiliate rundown. So first off, minor league minute. Congratulations to Missions infielder Devin Ortiz. He was named Texas League Player of the Week.
Yes, thanks to a blistering start to the season, Missions infielder Devin Ortiz earned his first Texas League Player of the Week of 1925 of 2025. That's for the week of March 31st to April 6th. In 3 games, Ortiz went 5 for 9, 556 with a home run, 3 RBIs, and a walk. As the Missions won their opening series against the Amarillo Sod Poodles. For Ortiz, this is his first weekly award of his career. The San Diego Padres signed Ortiz as an undrafted free agent out of the University of Virginia in 2022. And it's funny, he's one of the guys that we always have in the agenda, and he just seems like one of those ball players, just a hard ball player, like just a guy that just gets down, like a Marcos Castañon kind of style. Guy just is a grinder. Guys like that aren't maybe not making the major leagues, but having this award, certainly raises eyebrows in the organization. And if he continues to do well, the thing is, Preller has done so well with the undrafted free agents, and being able to identify that talent and bring it up, if it's arms, if it's guys that are on the field. it's just amazing how thorough his staff is when it comes to developing or just identifying talent and signing it.
You know, we can say that somebody may be a long way from making the way to the majors, but I think back to guys like Matthew Batten and Ty France that
Yeah.
were deep draft picks, didn't sign for much of a signing bonus, but because they continued to excel, play well, do everything that was asked of them, work their butt off, they wound up earning their way. And now, I mean, Ty France has played in an all-star game, and
Yeah.
he's making a pretty darn good major league career of himself. But even if Ortiz could wind up making a major league debut, that would be an outstanding accomplishment.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, so I saw something interesting. So Eric Longenhagen over at Fangraphs, they all their writers have like a weekly chat, and Eric Longenhagen is their prospect specialist. I always go through there, kind of looking for Padres specific stuff. But this time I saw a question about player development that kind of stood out to me. So this somebody asked, does the NCAA's pending settlement that removes scholarship limits make it easier for Manfred and Co. to further slash the minors, even though it's clearly harmed the development of young players? Cannot believe these owners insist on saving pennies to the detriment of the big league product. Eric's response says, I think MLB would like to outsource development to NCAA as much as possible as a cost saving measure. I don't know how many owners view development as an investment rather than a cost. They will need to be the ones who speak up about this during the next CBA. And so my mind went to, so college basketball just finished, and all
Right.
the talk in college basketball now is about the NIL money. And now there's all this money in the coffers from boosters and from advertisement from I don't know where that's available for teams to entice players to come play. And for college baseball, teams have always been limited to, I think it's like 7.5 scholarships per
Yeah.
team. And you've got 30 plus players on your roster. So most of these guys are just walking on and they're not getting a penny. They're not getting any help with school or anything. They're playing because they love to play, and it's, they don't want to hang their cleats up yet. But now if teams can offer 10, 12, 15 scholarships, now there's more incentive for guys to stay in college longer. Maybe forego the draft, and rather than going straight into, because we see a lot of guys drafted by the Padres straight out of high school,
Yeah.
signing for 75 grand, 100 grand, 125, 150. Now it's easier for them to make that decision to bypass that, go to college for a couple of years, because now they can get free education on top of being able to play ball for a couple more years. It definitely seems like it makes sense for a
Yeah.
major league to offload some of that player development onto college. But that would also mean that maybe the next time the contract comes around, they're going to be talking about slashing another layer off the minors. And that just makes my heart hurt.
Yeah, it does. And it's funny. Was it Kyle Glazer, I think, wrote an article like that a couple of years back? No, it was Keith Law, couple months back, maybe even a month and a half back. Where A ball is just, it's so bad. I mean, we talked about it last episode. There were like what, 9 like just incredible amount of errors. It was like a smorgasbord of really bad baseball. And if the Major League Baseball can cut that out and more of these kids stay longer in college, not only do they get their education, but they also work with development. That just kind of tightens the flow of players, but it also kind of brightens the flow of players. Kind of the same thing with the short season. You need 25 guys on a short season team to play essentially for maybe 1 or 2 guys that have a shot or a possibility of making the majors. You put that into A ball. I've watched a lot of A ball, and some of it's really, really bad. And I think to make it more efficient, that's what their thought is. And not only is it cost saving, but more efficient. So when you're drafted out of college, you're almost already at the high A level, if not at the high A level, where if you can hit high A level pitching, then you have a shot at maybe making it to double A. And it's a constricting of the belt. Major League Baseball can make more money and still control. Really, that comes down again to control and the one baseball kind of program that Major League Baseball overall wants. They want everything. They want a control of high school baseball, college baseball, definitely all the travel ball teams where it's under their umbrella. And if you're not under their umbrella, your chance of getting in have got to be very slim. Because if you have talent, someone's going to find you and they're going to put you on a team.
Well, my second Wu-Tang reference here, cash rules everything around me. Player development is a sunk cost that they're paying those players in single A. They're paying for their travel, they're paying for their accommodations, they're paying for their equipment
Yep.
and all of this and the coaching staff and all of that. And the parent team is not making a penny off of that. Now you've got a minor league franchise that's operating the stadium and all of that, and they're running a business, and that business is part of their community.
Yeah.
And so they're employing people and they're entertaining people, and we see the community outreach that every single one of these organizations has. But from the commissioner's office standpoint, you've got 30 owners that are all looking and saying, okay, I've got 50 people on payroll that, I'm not making, they're not generating any value for me beyond the couple of guys that are long-term value. So it would make sense from a business analytics standpoint to cut that. But I feel like there's an ethical part. There's
Right.
a growing the game part that's
Right.
missing here. Um, and I guess
It,
that's what happens. I mean, it's we're looking at late stage capitalism all around us. That's what our world is, and I think this is just another symptom of that. Unfortunately, pardon me for being a little cynical.
no, absolutely. And also, developing coaches. We talked about Kevin Kuzminoff. Kevin Kuzminoff was in the California League for the A's. I think last year, like they also develop managers, coaches, trainers. There's the whole economy of one level of professional baseball that kind of relies on it for its livelihood, and definitely that pipeline of management and coaches coming up through A ball into double A, into triple A, and getting a shot. Someone like Mike Schilt was a ball boy. He never played, but he worked his way up from being a ball boy for a double A team all the way up into a manager of, oh yeah, that's right, the best team in baseball right now.
Well, you look at the other sports, and I think that's kind of part of what's happening here is that the decision makers are looking at, okay, how does player development work in football? How does it work in basketball? How does it work in soccer? And so basketball, you've got mandatory college and they have to go out, or they go to Europe where they're playing
Right.
as a pro from age 16. And then by the time they finally make it, and then you've got the G League. So you've got one layer of minor league basketball, and that's it. And then football, you've got your practice squad, and that's
Right.
so. And other than that, it's all NCAA. And I understand soccer is kind of a similar thing that you've got a couple of layers of professional soccer over in Europe, but really you've got the premium layer, and then there's kind of one layer of depth under that, and that's about it. And beyond that, you're looking at the 18U teams
Right.
that is a whole different kind of economy. But baseball is a different sport that it takes so much longer for a player to mature to the point where they're capable of playing MLB caliber. I mean, even your superstars, it's so rare for somebody to go directly from draft to the majors.
Right.
And you look at these guys. I mean, Tatis took a couple years to come up, and now he's everything we ever dreamed he could be. But he wasn't that kid at age 18. It took him a
Yeah.
while.
Yeah, absolutely. A guy like Jackson Churio, I think there was needed a couple of years, and he's a beast. There is one player I can't remember. I think this year one player drafted last year didn't play any minor league ball and is in the majors. I can't remember who it is or what team it
Yeah,
is, but
so every year there's a couple of those. Usually it's like a niche
unicorn,
reliever who's got
unicorns,
something weird going on,
right?
or it's Paul Skeens that that this guy has the stuff and he can step right in.
Yeah,
Steven Strasburg. Bryce Harper wasn't far away from being able to do that when he came in, but those guys are, like you said, they're unicorns, and that's not how baseball development typically works.
right.
All right. So we've got our affiliate rundown to get to. We're going to take a little break right here. We'll be right back.
Boom. I need to go throw some potatoes in the.
I forgot that it's Jackie Robinson Day.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
Only for Major League Baseball, not for our government.
Right.
Fucking crap.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's go.
Uh-huh. Oh, okay. Welcome back. Before we get on with the affiliate rundown, I want to observe Jackie Robinson Day. Today is the day that all of the major league teams are going to wear 42. Everybody on this day is going to observe the legacy of Jackie Robinson, veteran, barrier breaker. So I think his story needs to be told every year. We can never forget the sacrifices that guys like that made. We have Johnny Ritchie here in San Diego that is kind of he's the Pacific Coast League version,
Yeah.
if you will. We got Willie O'Ree that played for the Gulls and broke a color barrier in the NHL. And we can never forget the injustice that our fellow citizens have experienced in the past, and that there's still some of it going on. Thank God there's less of it now than there used to be. But we need to keep that in our minds and in our hearts so that those kinds of things never creep back into our society.
Yeah. And they seem to be creeping a little bit these days from the administration of our government, but that's another story for another day. We're here to talk about minor league baseball. So let's start it. Lake Elsinore. Dude, Kash Mayfield, I missed the beginning of it. Kash Mayfield made his debut on Tuesday, and he came as advertised. Working 3 innings on 45 pitches, he struck out 6. He introduced himself by striking out the first 3 batters he faced. Here's video from that of courtesy of MiLB Pipeline. 25th overall pick in last year's summer's draft, got 4 whiffs as he worked over the top of the Modesto Nuts lineup with a fastball that sat 90-91 but touched 94, a changeup with good depth that landed around 80 miles per hour, and a few sliders that impressed. He wasn't throwing gas, but that changeup was nasty. It fell right off the table. It was coming in, belt high, and then just falling off the ground. A lot of good things happened for the first game for him.
Angela and I were in attendance. We made it up there for opening day, and he looked comfortable up there. For your first start in a professional game, you wouldn't have known it. He was pitching with rhythm. He had a certain amount of presence on the mound. He looked like he'd done this so many times. So I think what was really working for him. So yeah, everything was moving, but he had command of all of his pitches. He didn't run any high counts. He seemed to be working around the edges. Nobody squared anything up on him. And so you couldn't really ask for anything more from a professional debut.
No. And David J from Mad Friars was up there and had this little blurb on him. Quote, overall, I felt like I had a really good night. I thought all my pitches played well, said Mayfield after the game. Lamar, before the game, just told me, do what you do. The first professional outing, it was very nerve-wracking, said Mayfield after the game. I was a bit shaky, nervous, but during pregame, I just listened to music and got my mindset right. My one goal was not to allow any walks, but that happens. I think the start gives me confidence. The lefty finished the night with 9 whiffs on 18 swings, and none of the 3 balls put into play topped out at 90 miles per hour. It was insane, said catcher Lamar King Jr. He is one of the best pitchers I've ever caught. And that's saying a lot from a kid that's his first start. He was pounding the zone, hitting his spots. If he went the whole game, I don't think anyone was going to hit him.
Now it's the first start of the first week of the year, so everybody's on limitations.
Yep.
Yeah, so he was probably okay. You're going to go out there and throw 50 pitches, or you're going to face 9 guys, and that's going to be it. And so be it. You go out there, you check the box, and you come back the next day. On Tuesday, I witnessed another debut of the official bat dog of the Lake Elsinore Storm, Omaha. Last year Omaha made a few auditions with a couple of California League teams. Omaha did a pretty good job.
Yeah.
Nothing went too haywire. She would pick up the bat and she kind of shake it back and forth, and then she'd take a little roundabout way back to the trainer. But she did her job every time. So good job, Omaha.
Well, and I thought I saw one, kind of at the end of the game, they kind of have the camera still going. I thought I saw a little bit of roundabout way that Omaha was doing. It just made me laugh because that's the fun thing about minor league baseball. I was like, that can happen. If she if she did whatever she didn't do it right, it would have still been fun. But that she did it, and she did it pretty good every time that she went out there. Was a treat. I love watching that.
Well, so it's always a treat to watch debuts, and we got a lot of that right now. So on Thursday, Boston Bateman made his professional pitching debut. The big lefty went 3 1/3 innings, allowing 4 earned runs on 4 hits and 3 walks while fanning 4. That's a lot of fours. Bateman's fastball sat 94 to 95, topped out at 97 on the night. Bateman also ran his sinker up to mid 90s, with it topping out at 96.7. Now, okay, so he's 6'8", big Sasquatch looking dude. When he throws, it doesn't look like the ball's coming out of his hand hot. I don't know how to explain that, but to me, I see him throw and it looks like it's kind of just poofing out of his hand, like there's more in there if they
Right.
could find it. But that said, I mean, it doesn't look like he's throwing 95. At 6'8", I'm sure he's getting tons of extension going down the mound. And so that 95 is going to play as a
Yeah.
lefty and straight out of high school. So I don't know what kind of projection you put on somebody that's already 6'8" and 200 and whatever pounds. But I mean, the dude's a beast in the making.
Yeah, and he's fun to watch. And the 4 runs, like, look, you just want the kid to throw strikes at this phase. Just there's a lot of parts moving, lots of levers there. Just make him throw strikes. If he gets hit, he gets hit. Everything else is development. Certainly with Kash, with someone like that has a strong repertoire of pitches. It's against A-ball hitters. He needs to continually develop and get better with pitch mix and just execution of pitches. Same thing with Boston Bateman. These guys are just fresh. They're just starting out. So the 4 runs for me doesn't really bother me. I can't wait to watch if I get a chance to a little bit this week. I was just checking to see if Mayfield pitches tonight on a Monday or who pitches tomorrow. But these guys
they're off today. It's Monday, so everybody's off. Every time when we sit down here on Monday, I always pull up as I'm getting my screens up. I get the scoreboard up, and I'm like, wait, there's no games today.
It's Tuesday.
Oh, that's right. Thank you.
Yeah.
I went to the game yesterday. I totally forgot. Oh my gosh. Anyway, now I got to check up on the scoreboard, see what's going on. I bet Kash Mayfield's pitching today.
Exactly. We have the TinCaps game going on right now. Okay, so Saturday, Brian Balzer had his second straight impressive start after giving up 3 runs in the first Cactus League inning. He hasn't allowed another. He gave up just 2 singles to Modesto and finished with 3 strikeouts over 4 innings. An international free agent signee in 2023, Balzer had Tommy John surgery soon after joining the organization before making his professional debut last summer. The 20-year-old from Japan, who is being mentored by Yu Darvish, turned a lot of heads in spring training and is a name to watch this season. Now, speaking of Yu Darvish, his son just played for the first time this last week, I believe, at Catholic Cathedral.
Yes.
Had the great tweet. Got a chance to watch my son play. He did well, got a couple of hits, and pitched well that I did not teach him any of. He said something to the effect like, I haven't taught him anything.
Yeah, well, being the son of Yu Darvish, I'm sure he's going to have eyeballs all over him.
Yeah.
So don't get you people out there, don't get any bright ideas about going and trying to find Yu Darvish on a high school baseball field. Let the kid work. Let Mr. Darvish be a dad, and go down to Petco Park if you want to try to track Yu Darvish down for an autograph or a picture or anything like that.
Absolutely. And he rarely will be able to ever make any of those games.
Right. All right. So moving on the screws. On Wednesday, Lamar King Jr. continued to be the heavy hitter for the Storm, clubbing a bases loaded double to give him 2 more RBI and 8 overall in 5 games. After catching Tuesday, King played first base on Monday. Mike Daly, Padres assistant player of development, told this is Mad Friars, King should be catching about half the time. I was curious about that coming into the season because last year he was DH exclusively. And I saw in the first couple of games that he played some first base. I was curious what the mix would be. So I'm encouraged to hear that he's back behind the dish. He's going to be catching. I mean, half the time is a pretty full workload in a minor league
right.
game.
Absolutely. And if you watch this kid play first base, like he's got to stretch.
Oh, the
as a
kid's
catcher,
he's an athlete. He is
dude,
athletic.
he is a damn like if and when his professional, his catching days are over, he's going to seamlessly go into first base because he has a full on leg bending stretch. So yeah, it's good to see him back. It's funny when I get up to Elsinore, I think I'm going to talk to him first. I just want to talk to him, see how he feels. He was, last year, because I'm like, he's like, I want to get back to catching. Like, I want to get behind the mound, or get behind the plate. I want to be that guy. So just DHing and being first base is not what he wants to do. He wants to be a backstop, and that's what you want from a guy that's a catcher. Someone that wants to wear the tools of ignorance.
Well, when you go to a single A game, typically there's a couple of guys that stand out on the field just because of their physicality, their athleticism, the way they move. And Lamar King is one of those guys that you go up to Lake Elsinore, and as you survey, it's pretty easy for anybody to say, "Oh, who's that guy?" He was hitting the ball hard
Yeah,
all game long when we were up there, and the guy he looks the part already.
absolutely. All right, so Friday, Sean Barnett continued to swing the bat well. The designated hitter had a single and a double and drew a walk in the loss. And just a real quick, they finally won a game. We're going to get here in a second, but they lost their first 6-7 games. Barnett is hitting 273, 407, and 455 through 6 games with a double and a homer. The two-way player is building up to begin pitching out of the bullpen in about a month. So Barnett is our two-way player, which sounds like he's going to be in the bullpen. So it'll be interesting to see how the Padres, obviously they're building him up, but it'll be interesting to see a two-way player in the organization.
Speaking of two-way players, I heard something interesting about Mariners prospect Surangelo Sihinte. I don't know if you've heard about this guy. He is from Curacao, throws lefty, right, throws righty.
Yep.
Yeah. And so now Pat Venditte was somebody who actually made it up to the majors a few years ago doing this, but Venditte was pretty even with both hands, where it sounds like Sihinte is more dominant from the right hand side. Like his repertoire is very different. But I heard an interesting thing about how they're going to actually start using him. He's going to start as a right-hander. So Venditte would switch in the middle of an inning from one batter to the next. He'd switch hands. Sihinte, what they want to do is they want him to work up as a starter, as a right-handed starter. And then in between his starts, he'll be available to make a relief appearance as a lefty.
Dude, talk about what the best
clever.
ability is availability.
Yeah, I mean that's like having an extra half a dude at least on your roster.
Yeah. I'm a right-handed dude playing a left-handed dude that's right-handed and left-handed dude.
So now that makes me wonder. Okay, so they showed his glove, and so really cool. They have this. There's a glove that's like there's a web in the middle, but then you can you can switch your hand. So he has one of those. It looks like a 7-finger glove, if you will. But I'm wondering if he really is going to be working as a righty on Mondays, and then the rest of the week he's going to be a lefty. If he's going to have just 2 traditional gloves, or if he's still going to keep the I would keep using that glove as like a badge of honor. Like this is something nobody else can do.
Also, it's also familiar to him, so you don't want to be getting him a glove that maybe he's not too familiar with, and he's used to catching it in this way, and you use a right-handed glove or a left-handed glove and you catch a different way. It's kind of different. It'd be interesting to see how that goes. But then we got our two-way player, and he's fun to watch to follow as well.
Yeah, only he's not ambidextrous. Okay, so on Saturday, the Storm won their first game of the year. And so our friend Gail was up there as a photographer. She was in the camera well, and she was looking forward to getting some shots after the game. But all of a sudden, everybody just they went out, did the high fives after the game, and then they all disappeared under the tunnel. And it didn't occur to me, for a lot of these guys, this was their first professional win.
Yeah.
Period. And so after having to wait a week and a half to finally get that dub, those guys were ready to party. Yeah. And it wasn't just the players, it was also the manager. It was his first win as a professional manager. So I love all these firsts, and I hope those guys partied it up that night.
Absolutely. So they got the first victory of the season in style as they sent 9 batters to the plate and plated 4 runs in the first inning. They never looked back, adding 4 in the fourth and 1 each in the 5th and the 7th. Ryan Jackson, 23, is San Diego's 17th round selection from USC last year, had a big day at the plate with 4 hits, including his first professional home run. Caden Hollow, I watched a little bit of this kid. I like this kid. Good speedy guy. Had a pair of doubles and 4 RBI, singled, signed as an undrafted free agent, catcher before a series of knee injuries moved him from behind the plate. He has 6 hits in his first 7 games to go along with 4 walks against only a single strikeout and 25 plate appearances. Now, a lot of these guys in this year starting out are 2-day, 3rd-day draft guys, and some are even undrafted free agents. So I think it might have took them a little bit longer, and they scored a couple of those games. They scored some runs that just the pitching wasn't holding up, and a lot of the bullpen there, a lot of young guys from the complex that are just starting out, and so I think also in the Modesto Nuts team, a lot of their top draft picks or a lot of their top 30 guys are on that squad. So it's maybe not necessarily a veteran A-ball club, but it's certainly guys that are very good. So, they're going against high level competition, even in A-ball. So, it's development. It's not about wins and losses, but getting that first win, makes you feel good. And they won the next night too. So they won Saturday and then won Sunday.
Well, and the Storm were also kind of starting off a little bit shorthanded. The Padres had a bunch of guys that stayed back in Peoria as they were working their way through a couple of injuries that kind of had them breaking camp a little bit late. So I saw in Mad Friar's write-up, their weekly write-up, that a bunch of guys moved up at the end of last week. They actually wound up releasing a couple of guys from that Lake Elsinore roster. But I wanted to point out Ryan Jackson, so far in 9 games, he's reached base in every single one of those games. He's been on a tear.
Yeah, absolutely. All right.
So moving on to Fort Wayne. All right. So Fort Wayne, they only scored 1 run all week. I don't know what to blame that on. Is it that the offense is asleep? Is it that the weather is so cold that it's hard to square one up? What could it be? I don't know, but that's not going to keep going all week or all season. So painting the corners. Wednesday, Clark Candiotti made his professional debut. Clark, the son of the famous knuckleballer Tom Candiotti, has a traditional repertoire, and I'm sure he's going to be happy when everybody quits asking about that. Right. Do you throw a knuckleball? No, I don't throw a knuckleball. Yes, I have thrown a knuckleball ever in my life when I was like 12, but that's not part of Clark Candiotti's thing.
Right.
So the University of Arizona alum fought nerves, rain, and freezing weather in the first, allowing 4 runners and giving up a run. He did rebound by striking out the side in the second before getting wild and walking 2 more in his final inning. It was a debut to build on. When it's wet and cold and it's in the Midwest, the baseball's got to feel like a billiard ball. I don't know how anybody gets grip on that. Like, I start to wonder if player safety starts to come into it. Right. You watch some of these games and it's like nobody can find the strike zone. Like, what are we doing here?
Right. And they're throwing very hard. So moving on to Friday, Emmanuel Pinales turned in a fantastic outing, earning his first win of the season. The 23-year-old battled the cold Dayton air and pitched 5 shutout innings, allowing just 1 hit. He walked a pair and struck out 7. Through 2 starts, Pinales has not surrendered a run in 8 2/3 innings. He's punched out 11 batters and allowed just 3 hits. So the right-hander has 4 pitches and typically sits 91 to 93 with his fastball. San Diego will need to add him to the 40-man roster this offseason or risk losing him to the Rule 5 draft. I don't think there's any threat of that happening, but he's had a start after that and he's done really well. So he's a kid that's finally finding his footing, and starting to put it together early in the season. So then Tyson Neighbors entered the game in the 9th, and even though it wasn't a save situation, was still quite sharp. The former Kansas City State reliever struck out the side around 1 hit. Through 3 innings, Neighbors has not allowed a run. He has racked up 7 strikeouts while walking 3 batters. And if you got a chance to see there was the TinCaps little mic question they had, which was, what do they call you? And he's like, nothing yet. To be continued. So he has a little bit of a personality, which is kind of fun.
I think we should call him Mr. Rogers.
Right.
Won't you be my neighbor? No, but so Tyson Neighbors is an interesting guy to me because he's a college draftee as a reliever.
Yep.
He's a big dude. He's 6'2", 220, so he's already filled out. Fantastic reliever who knows how to get it done in college. And so I wonder when they drafted Kevin Kopps, I thought Kevin Kopps was going to be somebody that would move up quickly.
Yep.
It turns out that he wound up running into some challenges with his repertoire, with his command. But if Tyson Neighbors can prove that he doesn't have any of those things holding him back, I could see him being somebody to move up quickly.
Fast mover.
Yep. All right. So on Saturday, TinCaps relievers struck out 13 batters. Out of the bullpen, Tyler Morgan retired all hitters he faced, striking out 7. Luis Herman pitched an inning and 2/3. Josh Mallitz also pitched an inning. Those guys were both scoreless. So 13 strikeouts in a game is pretty darn good for that pitching staff.
Absolutely. So moving on to on the screws. 1 run in 5 games. Rosman Verdugo put together his most impressive offensive game of the season, and arguably his best since joining the TinCaps late last year, going 2 for 4 with a pair of doubles. To keep climbing the system, Verdugo needs to make more contact and improve on swing decisions. The teenager has demonstrated the ability to draw a walk, posting a 13.1% walk rate. However, dating back to last season, he's punched out north of 30% of the time in a TinCaps jersey, and he is falling right into that trap of fastball, slider away. And it's the pitch recognition that he's not picking up. He's not letting, and these sliders, the couple strikeouts that I saw were way out of the zone. The eagerness to maybe want to do too much and recognize the pitch where it is and where it's breaking. It's something that, he needs to develop, and he's very young, and he's my guy. But yeah, I saw a couple of the at-bats. I'm like, it's a little rough, but he's in high A, he's working his way through it, and we'll see if he does.
All right, on Friday, Brendan Durfee had a nice day at the plate with 2 hits, including a double. He also added an RBI as well. The 23-year-old catcher is hitting 320, 320, 480 with 4 doubles to start the year, though he has struck out 10 times in 25 plate appearances. I take the Midwest League and I take the first month's worth of stats and pretty much just throw it out the window because the weather's kind of weird. Everybody's just getting going. But Durf, he's a good catcher, but the dude can hit. Yeah. So I'm excited to see what he does against single A hitting this year.
Yeah. And then Saturday, Leo DeVries is in high A, recorded one of the team's 3 hits, while center fielder Norillion Cedeno had the squad's only extra base hit with a double, and first baseman Jack Costello had the other knock. Like this week with the offense was just horrible, and that's fine. The weather's bad. They just had a tough week. So there wasn't too much to report on, but we'll see how this week goes. And now that storm has kind of worked its way through America, or at least Midwest America, and should be warmer this week.
I think it's interesting that Norillion Cedeno has started playing some center field. Like he came up as a shortstop, second base. So putting him out in center field, you're trying to see what kind of what kind of versatility the guy's got, because he plays a pretty good infield.
Yeah.
They may have, an opportunity out in center field. You got to get his bat in the lineup. But he's had a lot of opportunities and he hasn't done a whole lot with them. So it's time for him to finally put in a good season and show that the potential that he can live up to some of that potential. So batting around, the TinCaps have the lowest ERA in all of minor league baseball at 1.92. The staff has only allowed 13 runs across 61 innings. Then Brandon Butterworth has reached base safely in all 6 games he's played so far. The only game he didn't record a hit on Tuesday, he walked twice. So at spring training, every time Brandon Butterworth would come around a baseball game, they always talked about his glove, that he's a vacuum cleaner out there, shortstop, third base, wherever they put him. The glove is his calling card, but he wants to prove that he's got some offense too.
Yeah, it's funny. I noticed in spring training he got into a lot more games in the second half of those games than I was expecting. Like every other game was like Butterworth, like, hell, let's go, Butters.
Yeah, that tells me that the coaching staff, they like what they see. They like, especially late in the game, you're looking for outs, you're looking for defense. Right. So they know they can put him anywhere they want him. He's going to make the right decisions. He's going to make the plays that he gets to. I don't know that he's so. DeVries is the flashy, crazy athletic guy that can get to the stuff at the far fringes of his range. But he'll boot one that's right in front of him every once in a while. That's really what he needs to work on, is polishing up those, the what
Routine
should be a
stuff.
sure out.
Yeah.
Where Butterworth, he already seems to have all that stuff polished.
All right, so let's move on to San Antonio. Painting the
All right,
corner.
painting the corners. On Wednesday, Victor Lizarraga made his 2025 debut and only gave up 3 hits, but 2 of them were home runs in the first. He struck out 5, didn't issue a walk in 4 innings of work. He landed 35 of his 49 pitches for strikes in his season debut. So I love that. Fill up the zone.
Yep.
Couple of solo shots, just shake it off. Whatever. Yep.
Watch out. You don't want to get hit with the copyright infringement with shake it off. Shake it off.
None of that. Okay, then Thursday, Jagger Haynes got the start for San Antonio, but it was Carter Lowen, Miguel Cienfuegos, and Manuel Castro who combined for 7 shutout innings for the win.
Yes.
So too bad that Jagger had to leave early, but great job on the guys picking him up. Carter Lowen, friend of the podcast, by the way.
Absolutely. And so is Jagger Haynes. Friday, Henry Baez got the start for San Antonio, and he looked sharp early. He retired the first 6 Hooks batters, including 4 via strikeouts. However, he ran into some trouble in the third when Sherwin knocked an opposite field 2-run homer to left field. In fairness, it was a good pitch. Like, the ball was low and away. He just got a little bit too much of the plate, and he drove it the other way. Jose Geraldo took over for Baez and pitched well, tossing a pair of scoreless innings. The 26-year-old has thrown up 2 2/3 of innings of scoreless relief to start the season. These are all very small sample sizes because it's very early in the season, but any no runs giving up in any level of baseball is a good thing. All right, so Saturday, Braden Nett, and I have yet to watch more than a few innings of him pitch. Despite taking the second loss of the year, was electric on the mound. He didn't allow a hit for the first 3 innings and only gave up 2 on the night. The 22-year-old showcased his big fastball to generate 7 strikeouts as he landed 39 of his 58 pitches for strikes. Nett, an undrafted free agent, was a huge win by the Padres scouting department and has as much upside as any pitcher in the organization. As the year progresses, the key for him will be to continue to throw enough strikes to go deeper into games and to develop more consistency with the slider. Like, he's that baby rattlesnake of the organization. He has all the venom. He just needs to know when to use it. And I've seen a few tweets this last week that more than one person has said he's got the best stuff in the system right now. It's just, I mean, the fastball is electric. Yes, obviously he has a little bit of command issues, but from where he was drafted to where he is now and what he shows he can do, certainly wouldn't be surprised him moving up to AAA by sometime at the end of the season if he continues to grow in AA.
When we talked to him the first time, he talked about getting confidence back, getting back into competition because it had been a while since he'd faced live batters and all of that kind of stuff. I can only imagine the amount of confidence and the amount of knowledge that he absorbed from being in Major League Spring Training this year.
Yep.
And that's got to just fill him up with so much ambition of like, okay, all these coaches are around me telling me that I can do it. I'm here pitching next to major leaguers and I'm holding my own. I'm getting big leaguers out. I can do this. So his future is going to be bright.
Absolutely. And the thing about the Padres, the team, is they're welcoming. We've talked about this over and over again. They're not just here, go sit in the corner and we'll show you what to do. They're very welcoming. They're making these guys feel comfortable because they know that they're going to come up next. They're the ones that are going to come up and sustain the winning for this organization for years to come. So, having the guys in our system that do that to the young guys is huge. And you've seen a lot of that from Jackson Merrill. He talked about it when he was through his press conference. He's like, I want to make sure I'm checking on my guys. Why am I at the 9th inning of a game in spring training? Because all those are my boys. All the guys that come in after the big leaguers, those are my guys. That's where technically he really should be, coming in the second half of a game in spring training. Instead, he's skyrocketed to the major leagues, and rightfully so, but hasn't forgot where he comes from. And being able to, hang out with those guys, shows the young guys, those guys that, eventually that make it, that, that they can do the same thing. And that there's there's a bridge from being the second half of a game to making your way to the very first start of a game in the majors, even in
I
spring training.
just love Jackson Merrill so much. Everything about that guy, he breathes baseball, and I'm so happy that he's going to be a Padre for the next decade.
Yeah.
Okay, so moving on to On the Screws. After going hitless in his first game of the season, Romeo Sanabria has gone 12 for 18 since, including 4 hits Wednesday. Sanabria homered in his second straight game, surpassing his home run total he posted in 32 games for San Antonio last year. Ethan Salas had a 3-hit night, and for those of you calling him a bust, he's the youngest player in Double-A. Patience, guys.
Yeah.
He also stole a bag. But Sanabria, I mean, we know he can rack up the hits, spraying laser beams all over the place, but starting to hit for some power. Like, I mean, I feel like that's what he went into the offseason trying to show, and it's showing so far.
Yeah, absolutely. Talked about that in the fall league. He wanted to work in the offseason. He said he had 11 homers. He wants to make it 2025 this year without sacrificing average. He wants to hit for average, and they call home runs happy accidents. But hitting the ball hard, making good swing decisions on pitches to drive, I think are going to drive that for him. And it's good because the beginning of the season, I was like, it was a little rough. And I was like, okay, well, it's the beginning of the season, it's early, and then he just has turned it on.
All right, so Friday was a hit parade for a trio of missions. Anthony Villar had a double and a single out of the leadoff spot. He stole a base and he played shortstop. We know him as a catcher, but he can do anything. Marcus Castagnon continued his torrid start with 2 more singles and an RBI. The 26-year-old infielder has hit safely in all 7 games this season and has 3 multi-hit games. The missions on their Twitter account, they put out an interview with him. Go check that out. And then Kai Murphy had a double and a single, scoring a run in the mission's loss. Murphy, age 24, is 4 for 11 in 3 games this week. 24 is still pretty young for playing in Double-A. And Kai Murphy, really good outfielder.
Yeah, real fun. I watched that game with Villar at short, and I'm like, Villar's playing short? Dude, he held his own. He really did hold his own.
Well, I think if I recall correctly, he was drafted as an infielder, and then they converted him to short to catcher.
Yeah.
So, versatility is one of the great abilities of this game.
That seems to be the theme of the pod. So batting around, San Antonio's 15 hits Wednesday were the most as a team since they recorded 16 on June 16th, 2024. In that game, also was the start was against Corpus Christi. Also, Victor Lizarraga was a starter for that game as well. And Wednesday is already San Antonio Wednesday is already 2-0 when recording 10 plus hits in a game this season. In 2024, they were 14-7 when reaching double digit hits.
I'm surprised they could lose 7 games with reaching 10 plus hits. God. Like, you figure you get 10 hits in a game and there should be a W in that column.
What is this, the PCL?
Well, you go out to Amarillo when the wind's blowing out and anything can happen. All right, so moving on to El Paso, bringing it home here, painting the corners. On Wednesday, after a rough outing for Ryan Bergert, where he gave up 6 earned runs, Francis Pena made his AAA debut, hit 98.8 miles an hour with a sinker and averaged 98 with it. He also mixed in a cutter that generated a 50% whiff rate. It was a great start for the 24-year-old, entering his 3rd full season as a pitcher. Talking about fast movers, Pena could be somebody we see in the second half.
Yep. It's funny. I was just looking at pictures the other day in my archives. And I'm like, oh yeah, it was 2 years ago. I haven't Elsinore 2 years ago. And I think that year he made it all the way up to Double-A. But yeah, so moving on to Friday, Stephen Kolek bounced back from a rough outing last time, and he pitched 5 solid innings. He allowed a pair of runs on 4 hits and struck out 4 without a walk. Kolek topped out at 94 with his fastball and sat just a tick below that. The 27-year-old has had a pair of solid outings wrapped around one clunker that has inflated his ERA to 5.14. Overall, the underlying numbers offer a few reasons to be optimistic. In 14 innings of work, Kolek has walked just 1 batter while striking out 13.
I'd be curious to see what kind of batted ball data they had that, it's one game. Everybody has a bad game.
Right.
But were they hitting him hard, or was it kind of lucky hits? It was at Oklahoma City, which isn't a hitter's park
Right.
necessarily. But then again, Oklahoma City has a pretty deep roster. They've got a lot of major leaguers or former fringe major leaguers on that roster. Um,
All right, on the screws.
so on the screws on Thursday, Brenton Brooks walked it off. Here's the clip.
The 2-0. Swung on. High fly ball. Will it stay fair? Down the line. Right field. It is gone. Walk-off home run by Trenton Brooks against his former team. The Chihuahuas coming out of the dugout, jumping and clapping. Brooks is rounding third. 7-6 the final.
For Brooks, 2025 has gotten off to a dream start as he posted a 479 weighted on base average with the system best 4 home runs. He also had a double and a walk. Luis Camposano raised his OPS to 941 with a 2-hit night. The catcher has had loud contact, posting a 52.2% hard hit rate, a 13% barrel rate, and an average exit velocity of 94.4 miles an hour. So he's squaring it up all over the place. Camposano hasn't compromised his approach to get the excellent batted ball data. His plate discipline numbers have been rock solid. He's walked in 17.6% of his plate appearances and has a 12.5% chase rate. So he's putting in the work. He's doing what he can do to earn that next opportunity.
Absolutely. And I believe he was the Chihuahuas player of the week this week.
He was.
So
yeah.
That's the great thing about, that's the one thing I'm still on the Campy. I'm still in the Campy camp. I still think he can be a valuable major league catcher. But it's translating that confidence, that hit ability from AAA into the big leagues. And damn it, if the major league team, the way that team is structured to win now doesn't afford for them to give him a couple games off. He needs to be on right away, almost immediately, which kind of, I think, maybe puts a little pressure on him. We've known he's had some confidence issues in the past, but it's just good to see him that he's taking the assignment, he's taking off with it, and he's tearing it up.
Well, and the other thing he needs to prove is the ability to manage a pitching staff and all the stuff, all the jobs that a catcher has to do behind the plate. So right now you got a couple of veterans on the big league squad in Maldonado and Diaz, and you can't argue that what's happening with the pitching staff is outstanding. So they're part of something really good. So I don't think Camposano is going to earn that next opportunity unless somebody gets injured, because right now you don't mess with a winning formula.
No.
All right, so on Friday, Trenton Brooks had only 1 hit, but he made it count as he connected on his 5th homer of the year to move into tie for second in the PCL, just 1 off the league lead. The veteran minor leaguer's 1.298 OPS is second in the circuit, and he has walked more times than he has struck out. So he plays first base. I think he can play a little bit of third base, and he can play the corner outfield positions. So that's where he would need to fit if he were to force his way up. Right now I'm kind of looking around like, okay, who's the center fielder that can slide in now that Merrill's hurt, now that Lockridge is hurt. I don't know how long those guys are going to be out. We'll see tonight how Hayward slides over. Tim LaCastro has lots of experience in center field, but it sounds like he's still trying to work his way back from injury. He had, what was it, the shortened his season last year? A shoulder injury or a wrist injury or something like that cut his year short last year with the Chihuahuas. But he's an on-base machine. And boy, they sure could use him right now. But I guess it's going to be Tyler Wade and Jason Hayward in center field for the time being.
It's all about the vibes in the glove, I guess.
I guess so. All right, so Luis Camposano only had 1 hit on Friday, but it was a majestic blast into the El Paso night. Camposano's 2nd homer of the season left the bat at 107 miles an hour, traveled 436 feet through that thin El Paso air. The 26-year-old backstop has a career 889 OPS in 185 games at the AAA level, but has not been able to translate the success at the big league level. Now, I feel like Camposano's had streaks where that success has shown at the big league level. I don't know that people doubt that if he can hit major league pitching. It's a matter of consistency, of finding a consistent approach and being able to get your mind locked in for multiple at-bats, multiple games, stretch that out across weeks. It's got to be the toughest thing to do as a major leaguer.
Yeah, sticking with the approach is huge, particularly when you're on the big stage and you're not performing as your own expectations, the expectations of the club. You can press and you can press early. And besides what we see on the field, what they see in the clubhouse and in practice, I think also kind of goes a long way with that. And what he's done is he's gone down to AAA and he has continued. Talking about Campy, it's continued to perform. And as long as he keeps performing in AAA, he'll still be on that short list to make it up. If Maldonado or Diaz, I can't say his real name, either one of those guys go down. Because and we'll see, because you got Brandon Valenzuela who went up to AAA last year. But with the Maldonado and Diaz up top, everyone kind of moves down, and now Valenzuela is stuck in AA right now. So to keep the train moving, you got to continue to perform. And I think, Campy's doing that. So that's good for him, good for the Padres. And we'll see how it goes as the season continues.
I do have a little bit of insider scoop. So we went to Lake Elsinore on opening day and we ran into Riley Westman. We seem to run into him everywhere we go, everywhere we time to go to a minor league ballpark, especially when Angela's with me. And so Angela went over and talked to him, and she was hoping to see. We were never able to run into Tirso Ornelas in the back lots during our trip to Peoria. She mentioned Tirso, and Riley said, "You'll see him this year." So keep that in mind.
Yes.
All right. Take us home, Donovan.
All right. So batting around, Brooks' walk-off was the Chihuahuas' first walk-off of the year. It was the 17th walk-off home run in the Chihuahuas' history, and the first since Tirso Ornelas did so on April 30th, 2024. All right. So Roy and I have decided to kind of change up the format a little bit to give you guys a little bit of a break for the minutia of every game, having 3 stories. So I think what we're going to do is we're going to break it up into 2-week segments. We're going to do every 2 weeks, and we're going to still do A ball, AA, high A, all the levels, but we're going to kind of focus all that attention onto a few players. Sure, there'll be a pop-up guy here or there that'll show up on the agenda, but we're really going to try to stick toward the top 10, top 15, even top 30 players with a little more meat and bones on the agenda. So that way you see a little bit of development, a couple of starts, from a pitcher, several innings from a bullpen guy. Like we didn't even talk about Bradley Rodriguez, who's done well this week. That's going to hopefully get you guys interested in continuing to listen to us. And if you're listening to it now, then that we're going to be continuing to do this. But it's just, I think it's going to be better for content wise, for the level of content, and for us to give us 2 weeks to put that together.
Well said, sir. All right. So I guess we're signing off for the next 2 weeks. We'll catch you in a couple weeks. In the meantime, you can find me on socials at @zippy_TMS.
And you can find me there at SD Donovan, and find us on Friars in the Farm. Here's 12 kids, Trixie. Yes.